Okay, welcome to Cowg's Virtual Wellbeing Programme. I'm Nicola Russell and I'm a nutritionist, and I'm here today with Gus Olds, who is a fitness and wellbeing expert. I don't know if that's how you describe yourself. And we've got to know each other over the last couple of years, and we started working together. And we thought we'd get together today to talk through how we work and the sort of sometimes the issues we have with people talking about fit and healthy. So, morning.
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 How are you?
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start today just to say, tell me a little bit about yourself, because I know you and we had a long chat the other day.
Sure.
I don't know if the Cowdrey audience know about you
well,
at all.
I'll try not to bore people too much.
So what's your background? How did you get to this point?
With a fair bit of luck, I think is the quick answer to that. So I managed quite early on in my career to cut my teeth with a few professional sports teams or national sports teams, which was great exposure to me, primarily in Europe, and then got bored of living out of a suitcase and, you know, €9 packs of Haribo.
Very, very healthy.
Yeah. So, ended up moving to London and started work there because a client of mine set up the London Psychiatry Centre, and I then was using a kind of consultancy basis out of there, helping people to work lifestyle factors into depression, bipolar disorder, alcoholism,
Yeah.
should know that word by now, and that sort of thing, and then set up my own business in Mayfair, training clients.
Doing the whole holistic thing as well.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Just sort of took bits from.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the benefit of having worked at a high level with athletes is that you realise that the training is actually a very small part of it.
Right.
And you realise how big an impact the lifestyle factors outside of training actually have.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the common things people do when they compare. You see in men's health or whatever it might be. This is so and so. Insert ex-professional athlete here. This is their professional training program. And you can give it a go. I think professional athletes have lives that are managed to be low stress outside of training.
Right.
So that they have the adaptive reserve to those stresses imposed by training. We as mere mortals probably don't.
No.
And yeah, that was made very apparent working in London, particularly when you're after the type A go-getter.
Yeah. Is that who you mainly sort of worked with, would you say?
Yeah, I did. Both in practice and out. My kind of run-of-the-mill clients were very much that ilk.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it was pretty depressing because, my knowledge was good, my delivery, I hope, was good. Those clients may beg to differ. But often you didn't get the results you wanted because of those lifestyle factors, and that's what...
So, yeah, exactly. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think, regardless of what sort of, lane of personal training, nutrition, anything that falls under the umbrella of health that we find ourselves in, that seems to be a commonality. And I'm sure you find that with your own clients. Definitely. And it's actually quite frustrating sometimes, actually. And I think a lot of clients of mine don't understand when they come to talk to me about nutrition. And actually I end up talking about stress during the and they can't, why is she talking about stress? I mean, we'll come on to that, but actually, I think we've, as time goes on, people realise, don't love the word holistic, but it is a holistic approach. Sure.
You can't just, and actually the more professional sportsmen, I'm sure now, probably in the past, didn't address certain sides and maybe had burnout as well, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's evident. The technologies the athletes are wearing now, your Whoop straps or your fitness trackers, that sort of thing. It's a very technical way of getting to a more holistic viewpoint. So actually being able to track the stresses and the effect that they have on you in a way that, when I first started however many years ago, that just wasn't available to you. Whereas now you can have it in front of you on a daily basis in picture form.
We love the Whoop, don't we?
We love it.
I don't really understand it. In fact, you've got my husband's data. Hopefully you're going to be able to tell me all about it. But yeah, it's, as far as I know, in regards to how I address it, is actually looking at stress, emotional and physical stress can really impact on your heart rate variability.
Yeah.
And that's what shows up in the data. And that's that's the information you can say to people, look, you're doing everything right, but you're not addressing this side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just we've kind of gone down a pretty cool tangent, and I hope we're okay to do that.
Yeah.
But heart rate variability is something that, you get a lot of questions about in the training sphere, and I think something that people find quite hard to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Rightly so, because it covers so many different facets of
Right.
what's going on within your body. That said, the base concept is pretty simple. It's a good measure of what your central nervous system is doing at any given time. Your central nervous system is then impacted on by a wealth of different factors.
Yeah.
And it's parsing out which of those factors are most impactful on you and your given health process.
Yeah. Very individualised.
In very individualised form. So
Yeah.
we love the work.
And do they respond to that data? Sort of, it's an image they can look at and think, actually, I shouldn't train today, or
Yeah,
I
look,
should,
I think more
or
than
work
anything,
harder.
and I think, you probably find the same with, gut testing or whatever, organic acid testing, whatever you do. The data is one thing.
Yeah.
The accountability that it gives the client or the person based on that data is entirely another.
Yeah.
So being able to wake up in the morning and have your phone tell you that you're 30% recovered versus 90% recovered, it's that second tier of action that actually makes them valuable.
Yeah.
In the same way that a stool sample that says, look, your microbiome is way out of whack and you need to do something about it, is probably more impactful than actually everything's tickety-boo and keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but actually they don't always do everything for that either. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's another story. So now you live, you're actually based in Midhurst, aren't you? So
Sure,
you
yeah.
moved,
I
you did
should
your
probably-
travelling, lived in London, moved to Midhurst.
Yeah, I should probably finish that story because I get sidetracked, which is
Oh,
what I
right.
want.
So do I. So I've got notes.
Yeah, so long story short, worked in London for a number of years, got absolutely cooked and exhausted. I was working
The irony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And felt a bit of a phony because I was trying to push this, holistic version of health that we just talked about, and yet I was the guy working, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, and this, that, and the next thing. I think a lot of personal trainers get hooked in the industry with the six-figure trainer line.
So was that what it was? Was it was not to say money is motivation, but was it just hard to say no?
I think it's hard to say no, and I don't think the health industry is alone in this. I think a lot of the financial industry is another one, but a lot of the kind of jobs you get in London seem to create a culture within them where it's almost a badge of honor to be the last one leaving. Yeah. It's not about the money, it's about the effort that others perceive, based on what you're doing at the time. So how many clients are you doing today? I'm doing 10. How many are you doing? I'm doing 11, and I win. Which is ridiculous in retrospect, but it's very easy to get caught up in that whirlpool when you're actually in that environment nonstop.
Do you think that still happens?
Absolutely.
It still goes on?
Yeah, 100%. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So long story short, I bumped into a good mate of mine called Charlie Hambry, and he said, look, mate, we want someone to train a polo team. How do you fancy coming to Argentina for a month?
Right.
And I couldn't wait to leave. I went to Argentina, decompressed, which is another kind of common symptom that you see with clients, and suddenly realized I was, headed down the wrong path, and basically pulled out of London overnight and found myself here, which was a bit of a result.
Not actually here, that would be really nice.
This is my house, people. No, not actually here.
Sofas,
yeah.
All right, so you're enjoying being in one place?
Yeah, loving it.
Yeah.
It sounds like an awful thing to say because you speak to people about your job and like, oh, you get to travel here and you get to travel there. Don't get me wrong, it is great. Yeah. And you get to do that with some lovely people and see some amazing places.
Absolutely, but you just
to have a base is special.
Nice. And so I know you work with a lot of professional men and women. You don't particularly focus entirely on polo.
No.
But obviously we are sort of the home of polo around here. So you do work with, is it individual polo players now or teams or?
Both. So I've worked with teams in the past. I've got a few teams lined up this year, and then work with individuals who might play for different teams and around here.
And is it seasonal, or do you stick with them?
The majority of them, very much so. Just less though this year because a lot of the English pros haven't been able to travel as much with Corona. But no, normally rock and roll polo lifestyle. They're not here very long, and if they are, it's only when it's sunny. So,
so are they just training with you to be fit? And I'm not going to say fit and healthy. I'll talk about that in a minute. To be
we should
fit,
say holistic again.
Yeah. to be fit to play.
Yeah.
Or,
Injury prevention and then performance performance-based training.
Performance, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so talking like new clients, I mean, we'll get to how we work together in a minute. So when you get new clients locally, or is it all word of mouth now, or is it existing people, or is it...
It's word of mouth, which is, that's the nice thing about being
I
in one
agree.
of these sorts of locations,
Yeah.
is that one, the right people tend to refer the right people, and two, it's a bit easier in that sense, because hopefully, you know, if you're doing a good job, people get to hear about it in a way that they wouldn't in, you know, a huge
I think
city
it's the
like
best
London.
I think it's the best way to get referrals from
Yeah,
other people, don't you think? Yeah.
You know, Instagram's pretty good for that. I find Instagram to be a lot more useful in terms of referrals than my website, but
Actually, I sort of agree.
yeah.
But yeah, I know it's quite a lot of work though. The socials.
Yeah, I haven't been on it in weeks, and I really need to get on it.
But you're doing well, because obviously you based during lockdown. You were based at home.
Yes.
And from your Instagram, we can see you've got an amazing barn.
That's pretty much all you saw.
Well, I know, but it looked amazing.
But
It was probably absolutely freezing in the winter, wasn't it?
Absolutely Baltic.
Yeah.
I'm
But
not sure I'll
everyone's
be doing
enjoying
that
it, I believe, or your
Yeah,
clients
so
now.
this is the weird thing, I think, you know, I think people assume, you know, and it's slightly self-serving to say this, but I do honestly believe this. I think, you know, you don't actually need a hell of a lot of kit to get in shape. You know, you can give a...
Were they using the wood there or not?
No, that was strictly a solo deal that I thought was going to take about 10 hours and ended up taking about 72.
Okay.
So I wouldn't drag them into that debacle. But no, I've got some pretty simple kit at home, strength and conditioning equipment, and, you know, a brutal piece
using
of cardio
own body
equipment.
weight as well and things like that?
Yeah, I do a lot of calisthenics, but
do you? Okay.
I think, you know, if you're going to get in shape, and this isn't with reference to the gym I've got at home, it's more in general. If you know what you're doing, and I think that's the key point, if you know what you're doing with a kettlebell, a TRX, and, you know, if you have the good fortune to have some weights and weight plates, there's very, very little you can't get done. But I think the important thing is not, you know, it's not the tool, it's how you use it.
Yes.
And you'll have, hopefully, good input with a single kettlebell will get you far further than bad input with a, you know, a gym with a plethora of equipment.
Yeah. And do you find that your clients all need you stood there giving them motivation, or a lot of them?
Not so much motivation, but I'm a stickler for form. You know,
Right. Yeah, but I mean, if you're not doing it properly, then you could injure yourself.
Yeah.
Or not get results. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I would have this put on a t-shirt, but it's a really, really boring slogan, so I might not. It's not the exercise, it's the execution.
So it's not what?
It's not the exercise, it's the execution.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can send someone a program of, you know, squat, deadlift, run, jump, do whatever.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it right, it doesn't matter. And I think that's why I stand over them.
Yeah.
Not because they need motivation, because I tend to only work with people who are self-motivating.
Right, okay.
As I'm sure you've experienced, there's nothing more draining than trying to provide motivation via osmosis, which just doesn't happen. So no, it's a form deal.
Yeah. So you don't think you'll go back into a gym?
I don't know. In the winter, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Either that or invest in some heavy duty heating, because you know, I remember my hands getting stuck to the kettlebell one day. I was like, oh, I should probably stop.
So when a client first comes to see you, and I just know this because we're about to go through the process soon, not me, someone else, is husband, is you have a chat initially, don't you, and see what's your goal for that, the whole process. How do you start?
Look, I start pretty informally. I think the main thing I worry about before anything else is getting a read on people.
Yeah.
You know, are you someone that is self-motivating? Are you someone that's actually genuinely interested in doing this? Because I think that's something that, you know, unfortunately, probably because it's bad for business, but fitness professionals don't speak about nearly enough, is it's still hard work.
Right.
Even if you've got a trainer, even if you've got a great trainer.
If you're not doing it for them, they have to do the work.
It's still hard work. And, you know, I had the dubious distinction of working with a few celebrities and the like in London who have chefs that cook them, you know, macro perfect meals and deliver them, you know, how many times they need them and that sort of thing. But there's people who still fail then.
Yes.
And I think the most important thing, certainly in the initial consultation, is to get a feel on both sides of the coin as to whether this is someone you would want to work with and whether they want to work with you.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, are you motivated? You know, do you realize what this entails? You know, how far off center are you at the moment? And then, yeah, you know, much the same I would imagine as your initial process, you know, trying to troubleshoot the things that are going to provide the most motivation the earliest. So, you know, if there's a big smoking gun as to what you're doing wrong, that's a good thing to focus on. Whereas sometimes with people, you know, I often find the most difficult clients, the ones that are doing 99% of everything right.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, well, I think that actually leads me right on to my next question. At what point do you point people to me? Is that the point you think, or is it, do you sort of routinely think actually a lot of people have gut issues, a lot of people have, you know, X, Y, and Z, and you think actually let's get this functional testing out of the way so we've got a good picture at the start of the process?
Yes, exactly that. In short, this is something I developed in London. So a lot of my clients in London had the good fortune to be able to afford pretty much whatever testing they needed. And I found in those instances, 60, 70% of the time, everything was in place your end, and it's not that you weren't getting results, you just weren't getting them as quickly or as easily as might happen for someone that, you know, may not have a gut microbiome issue, a parasite issue, a hormonal issue, a, you know, cortisol regulation issue, you name it. So yeah, I think if and when possible, I like to get those out the way really, really quickly, because that just cuts through the fluff, you know. X, Y, and Z is out of whack. You know, ABC looks great. Let's focus on X, Y, and Z and keep A, B, and C and see you in 6 weeks' time and you're looking way better, you know, for pretty much quite a small amount of effort relative to what it would have taken had you not had that information to begin with.
It's such a shame that functional testing is still so expensive, isn't it? I mean, you can get a few through your doctor. You know, vitamin D is very you know, obviously vitamin D.
Sure.
See my Instagram on that one. Was you know, used to be actually be able to get it through the doctor quite easily. I think now people will assume that you are deficient.
Sure.
And so that's sort of one. And obviously your normal bloods and things like that. You know, you can get through the doctor, which I think people don't.
So I probably am wrong on this one, so this is kind of a question for you. Vitamin D you can get. Sex hormones?
Only if you're into menopausal age.
Only if you're symptomatic, okay. And thyroid?
Thyroid you can, yeah.
Okay, so that's worth talking about, I think.
Yeah, I think it is, because I think, well, I mean, obviously any issues that are abnormal to what you're normally like, you know, go to your doctor anyway.
Yeah.
And they probably will routinely run these tests. But if you think you picked up on symptoms that could be thyroid related, etc., you know, absolutely they can go to their doctor and get tested in the UK.
Sure. I just think thyroid's one, particularly in female clients, that seems to be tested a lot. I just think it gets tested badly because often doctors will just run TSH.
That's right. They do. Yeah.
Thyroid stimulating hormone.
Yeah.
Which doesn't actually give you a very good picture of what the thyroid's doing. So I've had a lot of false negatives come through. Yeah. You know, where the clients come back and said, actually, you know what, my thyroid hormone's fine. Yeah. And they're not talking about a thyroid hormone, they're talking about a pituitary hormone in the form of TSH.
Before it's been converted. Yeah. And it's exactly what I was talking about with vitamin D. Sorry to bang on about that one. It was that, you know, the vitamin D is usually the storage form of vitamin D, it's not the active form. Yeah. So, you know, you have to keep that into consideration. So yeah, unfortunately to test for the T3 and T4, you have to go privately. Yeah. Those aren't so expensive. It is the things like the organic acid testing and the gut ones, which is such a shame. They're so useful, and I would hope the more people do it, the more the price will come down. So, but yeah, I think it's great. I mean, obviously, people can afford it to have it done at the beginning. Brilliant, wouldn't it be great to have a sort of integrated healthcare
like the American model.
Yeah, exactly. And you walk in and you automatically get tested for this, and you can go to see a chiropractor or a physio or whatever if you've got back issues, rather than just prescribing painkillers or whatever. So
I just think on that one, it's probably worth saying that, you know, if you are going to go to your GP and get some testing done, great, by all means do it. But speak to someone who knows what they're doing before/after, just because of things like, you know, each one of those tests we've mentioned, thyroid can be misread if they do the wrong one. Yeah. You know, the sex hormone panel can be really badly misread, particularly in men. because they're not testing for free testosterone. You know, the vitamin D one you just mentioned. So it's probably
But
worth
actually,
saying.
even something simple as cholesterol. I actually had one of your clients, no names mentioned, was told he had high cholesterol, so he's on a flat panic.
Yeah.
And actually, it was to do with what they hadn't looked at was the ratio.
Well, this is it. I think cholesterol is so badly misunderstood. This is a great tangent to dive down because.
Sorry, we're off again. Gone off again.
Here we go. Just because, you know, it's in the vernacular, right? High cholesterol is bad for you. I think what a lot of people don't realize is if they do come back with, you know, poor sex hormone-like symptoms, so, you know, lack of libido is the obvious one, but so is tiredness, kind of lack of joie de vivre. Did I say that? Joie de vivre?
Yes, well done. Yeah, that's good.
I don't think I'm
so.
anywhere near close, but that's very kind of you.
I'm not going to repeat it.
Okay, lack of love for life and kind of energy. And actually the leading cause of depression in men is low testosterone, right? Where was I headed with this?
Cholesterol.
Thank you.
Right. I hope.
Yeah, I was. What people don't realize is that the base substance from which we form our hormones is cholesterol. Not only that, but it's also linked to brain health. So low cholesterol, or this, you know, the health myth of low cholesterol is actually a disaster. You need to look at the ratios, not the levels.
Yeah. And also,
statins are,
statins, no, we can't go. I'm sure we can't go down that route.
All day.
But also, regards to, I'm going to come back to stress again. Literally, that's is that you know, the more stressed you are, the more cortisol you're going to be making, and cortisol is also made from cholesterol
And testosterone.
Yeah, so you just sort of have this sort of weird sort of cycle going on, and then people are also obviously trying to, and actually what people don't realise, it's not high cholesterol foods they're eating, it's endogenous, it's made in their body in response to what's happening. So there's so many confused messages out there, and you know, even if you Google it, it's not necessarily right either, which you must tell the kids out there that, or if it's on TikTok, it's also not necessarily true.
I don't know, I beg to differ.
That's my latest one. I think you'll find it's on TikTok. I'm like, no, that's not true. I'm going on a tangent now, but anyway.
No, I think look, the key point there is just, you know, be careful in terms of what you're believing because of the level of miseducation out there.
Absolutely,
you know.
and speak to professionals, and it's, you know, we're not, you know, we're there to help.
Yeah.
And actually, we're not just them. We're just not making money. That's what, back to what we were talking about earlier. It's not actually about, in my opinion, it's all about, when you're a therapist anyway, especially, you just want to help and give as much information as possible sometimes, which is probably one of my downfalls. But
I think with those sort of testing things, I give a cheat sheet to my clients, right? So, you know, cholesterol, great. Levels, important.
Yeah. And,
you know, you touched on it. The more stressed you are, the more cortisol, stress hormone you're producing, the less, without trying to get into the biochemistry and lose everybody in a sentence, but
and we're out,
you synthesize cholesterol and your sex hormones from the same place.
Yes.
So if you're low testosterone, it's probably because you're, you know, in a lot of instances, because you're high in cortisol. If you're low progesterone, it's also because you're high in cortisol. So I think people don't realize the actual physiological effect that stress is having on them.
No.
And when we talk about stress, we're not just talking about, you know, some muppet almost just cleaning me up in a junction.
Yeah, exactly.
The one that seems to really drop testosterone or progesterone in my clients and fire up the stress hormone is actually the long-term stress. You know, the smallest cog in the wheel, but the one that's constantly just turning in the back of your mind.
And also, I think, I can't remember what the quote was, but it's like, you know, just because your stress is not an internationally recognised, you know, stressful event, it's stressful to you.
Sure. And
it's affecting you, and actually, you know, it's money worries, it's relationships, it's your children driving you insane in lockdown. You know, there's so many, and it's piles on.
Yeah.
And then you can also have stress from, you know, poor diet, the environment, inflammation inside, parasites. You know, this is the pit. You know, the picture you've got, and actually, I mean, back to that work, but we're not being sponsored, by the way. Is that, you know, the emotional stress? Maybe we'll get one after this, but the emotional stress, I think, is probably picked up. That tick along is probably picked up by something like that. I would hope it will.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might not be as.
So look, I mean, that's the really interesting thing. I've probably got, you know, on my phone, I can flick it open and look at any one time 50 or 60 individuals, which isn't that many, but it's it's an interesting cohort, if nothing else.
Good research.
And yeah, I think consistently the one that seems to drop people's HRV the most is not, you know, as we said, the major stressors. It's the, you know, you see it with COVID. you know, there was this weird bell curve when COVID started in terms of, you know, suddenly all these people that had been thrashing themselves half to death in London got healthier and healthier and healthier.
Wow.
And the longer lockdown went on, it kind of peaked and then started to drop again.
Right.
And, you know, you speak to people and you're like, you know, hey, you know, person X, why do you think your HRV is dropping? You know, is it your nutrition? They're like, nope, that hasn't changed. You know, hydration, sleep, all the obvious ones. And it transpires that what happened with these people was they went, great, I can relax, and this is going to be over quickly, and everything's going to be okay. To, I was going to swear, just got past.
Well done.
To, you know, actually, hold on a minute, this is going on longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
and what if
when's it
everything
gonna
isn't
end?
okay? And when's it going to end? And what am I going to do? And this is what's happening to my savings. And, you know, did I like my job anyway? And,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, all those
like
sorts of
working from
little
home.
wheels that start turning.
Yeah,
Those are the ones that people,
Fascinating.
I think, really had a visible and very tangible response to. And I think that's the hardest thing to get across to people is, you know.
But they saw that from their results, or did they not really study them like you do?
No, look, they did, but it was, I think, you know, it's a rare environment that we've been handed in terms of lockdowns where we've had the time to actually self-analyze a little bit, you know, and I think it's only then that people are going, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's been, that's been a good
Yeah.
thing. So this is my big thing is, I've written, I have a bugbear with people. I just don't talk like that, so I don't know why I wrote that note. Saying they're fit and healthy. And actually, this was a phrase that was used a lot during lockdown. I don't want to go down the COVID route, but it was very much, I don't know why they've got so ill, because they were fit and healthy. They were running, you know, 12 miles a day, and they were so fit and healthy. And I'm thinking, 12 miles every day, that's might be fit, but they're certainly not healthy, especially if not, you know, we don't know how they ate. Underlying health conditions that or undiagnosed, you know, we didn't know about. But also people think they're eating healthily, or they think they're training well. And, you know, this whole stress thing, when I sort of say to people, they come to me and they are, let's say we're looking at adrenals, which actually was, I was going to mention that test about talking about cortisol. That's actually a really good test, a cheap, affordable one, which is a really good picture to people. Your stress levels are off the scale, or they've dropped off the scale, or below the scale. And actually, I say to them, you're just going to have to stop exercising, which is quite hard when it's your clients.
Well, no,
I was like, don't tell Gus.
I think we agree a lot of the time, right?
Yeah. Because, you know, and actually from your clients, from the notes they send to me, it's actually a really nice pattern of exercise you give them. Anyone know what you're doing? A lot of, you know, stretching or whatever, you know, yoga and, you know, a lot of stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a high intensity session on top of a really super stressed person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day when they're knackered.
Yeah.
Can I say that? We'll go for
you
it.
get away with that one.
Is not great.
No, I think, look,
you know.
one, it's miseducation. So everything from, you know, eat more Special K to all it is calories in versus calories out is wrong.
Yep.
Okay.
Get that, folks.
On a basal level, in terms of the law of thermodynamics, it's correct. It's not that simple. Okay.
No, if it was, we'd all be...
Exactly. We'd all be shredded with abs and no one would be, you know, worrying about it. That's the first thing. So it's, you know, people get miseducated. Two, people are highly individual. And frankly, people don't want to hear that, you know. It might work for your mate down the road or your daughter or your sister or your brother. You know, it's not going to work for you, unfortunately. And I think because of that miseducation, the cure is more in terms of exercise and less in terms of food.
Yeah.
What we must remember, and I suppose a lot of this is going to come back to stress without trying to get stuck on it too heavily, is exercise is a stressor or stressor, okay?
Yeah.
It's a hormetic stressor, hopefully, meaning hormetic stressors include things like, you know, ice baths, turmeric, you know, resveratrol, fasting, namely things that kind of irritate your immune system just enough that your immune system can still overcome it and not be overcome by it. But in so doing, you promote your body's self-defense mechanisms and get healthier.
Yeah.
Fine, that works, assuming that you already are not overstressed.
Yes.
which most people may
Start
or may not be, but that's often how they start. And I think particularly among female clients, the one thing that's a real bugbear, I'm going to nick your word to stop me swearing,
that's my new phrase,
is the kind of cardio bunny syndrome.
Yeah.
Meaning I'm not happy with how I look, so I'm going to eat a lettuce leaf twice daily.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sit on, the treadmill for 4 episodes of Friends.
Yeah.
That's not going to work, because I think, particularly with jogging, I don't know why that's in italics.
Yeah, why is jogging?
I don't know. I said Friends,
Sorry,
and I thought the episode of Friends where Joey's putting italics in the wrong places. So yeah, with jogging or long duration exercise, what people don't realize is at a certain point you're going to run out of calories. And when you do so, your body is not just going to burn body fat. Sure, some portion of what you burn in terms of calories at that point is going to be body fat. But actually, if you're in a stress state, quite a small percentage of that is going to come from fat. Quite a large percentage of that is going to come from muscle in the form of gluconeogenesis.
Yep.
Okay.
It's our biochemistry coming out there, yes.
And what that means is you're going to convert muscle to sugar, which you're then going to use. Okay. So what you end up with after months of this is a body where you're actually preserving body fat because it's harder to burn for you at a given point than sugar. And you've burnt through the muscle that you would have been able to use to burn that body fat anyway.
Yeah.
And then you hit homeostasis effectively, as in you can't lose weight anymore because you can't take your calories any lower.
Yeah.
If we up your calories to help you try put on muscle, you're probably going to get a bit fatter in the beginning.
Yeah,
and that's a sad reality that some clients have to face, and it's really good for business when you look at someone at the beginning and say, so the plan is to get you to put on some fat. So they come to you
if they are underweight though?
Absolutely.
So they come to you and you say to them, I'm going to make you eat. I mean, this is, that's coming to next section, is just sometimes the horror in their eyes.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the hardest things to get across, is actually a lot of people, and you've got to go easy here, okay? So be honest with yourself. If you're binge watching Netflix and eating nachos, I'm not talking to you, okay? But a lot of people are chronically undercaloried. And when I say chronically, I mean over the case of years. They've started a pattern where eating...
Do you mean undernourished or actually genuinely
I think
eating...
the two go hand in hand.
Fine, okay. As in they're eating a lot of rubbish foods.
I think the
no
foods they do eat are probably high sugar, low protein, and low fiber.
So a lot of calories.
Yeah, so a lot of calories, but not satiating calories.
No.
So
just fake.
Can of Coke's 30 grams of sugar. Have a can of Coke, and then have, the equivalent amount of blueberries, which is about 250 grams. Okay, they're both sugar. Tell me which makes you feel more satiated. Probably, hopefully, going to be the blueberries.
And don't just go and have a Diet Coke, by the way, because that in my opinion, even worse. We've got to talk about
great for you.
Yeah, sweetness, etc.
So yeah, they're undercaloried, so they're not eating enough.
Yeah.
What they are eating is of the wrong sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they've crashed their metabolism.
Yeah.
Because they've dropped muscle mass, and that's where most of my female clients hear the words muscle mass and
think they're going to be
just about see them long enough to wave as they leave. When we say muscle mass, we're not saying we're trying to turn you into Bavarian beef farming bodybuilders, okay?
Of which I think you've worked with before.
What we are saying is the percentage of your body that is muscle, i.e. metabolically active tissue that's going to burn calories for you, needs to stay high. If you're constantly undercaloried and in a lot of instances overworked, that percentage of your body is going to be low. So you're not actually going to be able to burn the body fat you want to, regardless of what you want to do.
It's going to hold on to it.
Yeah. And I think for some people, and this is where, again, it's bad for business, but I think there's a lack of honesty in our industry that I'm trying to fight back against. For some people, that means that you are going to have to go through a period, hopefully a short one, of maybe putting on some weight to give you an environment whereby you can then lose body fat. Yeah.
But it's an evolutionary response.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, we might have evolved over millions of years, but actually that one is still there, and it's only been a very short amount of time that we've had this sort of the type of foods we're now eating.
Sure, absolutely.
And so, so you have sublime to ridiculous, and so much people are eating very highly refined processed foods, which, as you know, you just said, they're not great for you, and they're actually quite calorific, but not the right calories, and it's all horrible. versus what we were eating around the war. I gave a talk in Cowdrey Hall, funnily enough, and this little old lady at the end of it put her hand up and she said, so basically we just need to go back to what we were eating at the end of the war.
Yeah.
And that was rationing. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but it was the case of that we were, it was rationing in regards to sort of sugar. But you know, they still recognised that you needed butter, you needed really good quality bread. You know, the bread was, I can't remember what it was called, like war loaf or something. It was like a brick because it was so full of whole grains, and you know, one slice with some lard on it would keep you going. And so, you know, to say to someone today, eat lard, they were like, what?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
You know, but actually, this is the whole concept of fat and nutrients and quality of food has just gone really wrong.
Well, this is it. I think people have, you know, things like, again, we could spend a whole afternoon on this, but things that make me want to, you know, sprint into a wall head first are words like juice fast.
Celery juice, that was the recent
look,
one, wasn't it?
if you're going to fast,
Yeah,
you know,
but proper fasting.
do a water fast, you
Yeah.
know, for 24 hours if you're, you know, really in the position to do so.
Well, in fact,
do a
you
water
know,
fast. For
overnight fasting, which is what I sometimes suggest to my clients if they've got good blood sugar control.
right,
which, you
define
know,
overnight fasting, because I'm going to take the mickey.
Are you going to take the mickey of me? Okay,
Yeah.
right, okay, God, this can go so wrong. So over 12 hours, so you eat your last meal, say 6,
Okay.
overnight, and then don't eat till about 10. Can't work out the maths there.
So, look, I think I have a bugbear with that, okay?
Oh, that's my phrase, I
I'm
think
going
you'll
to
find.
stick with that word. That's not fasting. That's a late breakfast.
It is a late breakfast, but I think there's research, I'll find it for you if you'd like,
Yeah.
of that sort of 12 to 16 hour window
Sure. No,
where,
look, I
you know,
think
the repair in your body,
I'm being
that's sort of what,
semi-tongue-in-cheek, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But I think
Have a fight.
the real magic seems to happen around 16 to 18 hours.
Yeah. See, I couldn't do that.
But this is it,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
This is the point we need to get to, because in some instances, nor should you, based on what we were just talking about, fasting is a hormetic stressor.
Yeah.
You know, the people who I deal with the most that are able to fast from a mental perspective
Yeah.
are the people often who least should, okay?
Right.
So-
Let me just digest that. So the people who the people who can do it are the ones who shouldn't.
Often,
it's a
yes,
mental
not
thing.
always, that's not an
Right, okay,
absolute,
yeah.
but if you say to certain people who are kind of unstressed, you know, potentially not like super type A aggressive sort of people, hey, do you want to do a fast? Like, no, you know,
I need
why
to eat
would
literally
I?
every 4 hours.
Yeah,
I'd be
right?
beside myself.
Whereas, you know, if you say to kind of, you know, I work with some of the most highly stressed people I work with, the kind of ex-army or special forces guys, something along those lines, and you're like, hey, you know, Johnny Commando, do you reckon you can fast for 18 hours? Like 18?
Yes,
How about
bring it
24? How
on.
about 72?
Yeah, exactly.
And
No,
you're like,
I can
right, you should
imagine
not
not
be
be doing
fasting
it. Yeah,
because
that's
you are
great.
potentially already stressed.
Yes.
And it goes full circle to what we were just talking about in
Yeah.
terms of stress. You know, if you're already stressed, if you're eating poor nutrient quality foods, and
Yeah.
fasting is often a proxy for that, you know, hey, you know, we had a conversation about not having giant bowls of pasta. What's going on?
Yes.
Oh, no, it's cool. I fasted. And you're like, no, that's not
Oh
how
yeah,
it works.
well I know that was the sort of last, was it 2-3 years ago, it was the 5-2 diet.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
was the worst thing that sort of happened. It, you know, on paper, and I'm not going to mention the man who did it,
Yeah.
but he, you know, he on the 2 days he was eating, no, it was the other way around, sorry, 2 days he was fasting versus the 5 days he was eating normally and
Yeah.
well, healthily.
Yeah.
It's just that I think the idea was basically you can eat what you want.
Yeah,
And then people just eating crap on those days, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's good. That's not.
absolutely. And
But
I
it's
think,
amazing. People interpret what people interpret. How, you know, you'll give advice, and then they'll just sort of, you know,
Yeah.
mould it to how it suits
and the worst
them.
thing is I find myself doing it
Right.
to myself. Okay.
So do I.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Believe yourself, Gus. Ugh.
But I think it's good to be honest though,
No,
because you
look,
know
it is.
you're not like I'm certainly not perfect in regards to my eating and drinking habits, but it's, you know, I think ultimately we live by the rules and practice what
Well,
we preach.
This is a great saying I
Yeah.
heard the other day, is you've got to know the rules in order to break the rules.
Right.
So, you know, I think if you are metabolically healthy,
Yes.
if your stress level is manageable,
Yeah.
then, you know, is 80-20 in terms of treats versus clean food going to, you know, be a disaster? No, probably not.
No.
But, you know, you've got to know the rules before you can break the rules. Are
You
you
do,
in
and
that
also
camp
I think
first?
I think a lot of the time the way I say it with the clients, I think it's from having children, when you say you can't do something, they immediately want it or do it.
Yeah.
with a client, I'm saying, I'm not going to tell you can't drink.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to advocate it because I think that's not great from a nutritionist's point of view. But I do say if you are going to, then we'll try and make it as healthy as possible. For instance, vodka and soda, you know.
So how do you handle that one with clients? Because I get that one a lot.
Basically what I say. And
vodka
I say, look, vodka, soda and lime, loads of squeeze of lime, I can't believe it's a little cocktail. But it's just a case of, you know, the purest, best quality vodka you can get. Soda is basically fizzy water, lime, you've got some vitamin C, and I mean, it's, you know, you're pushing it, rather than a, you know, a pint or a wine or a fruity cocktail or something, because there's just so much sugar in it. And I'm always looking at things like blood sugar with my clients.
How far down the COVID road do you want to go in terms of blood sugar? Yeah.
Oh, right, I don't know.
Well, no, just in terms of insulin sensitivity, I think we started this by saying, you know, people, you know, if I had £1 for someone, every time someone said, look, I'm eating healthy and I'm really healthy, I'd probably be, you know,
or
doing this
fit and
interview
healthy
via
or just
Skype,
healthy?
Both.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably be doing this interview via, you know, Skype or FaceTime from my yacht.
Would you, yeah.
You know? But I think that's just being lean or skinny has become the principal yardstick for health, right? Which I think is where your testing is so useful.
Yeah.
You know, certainly I used to train a lot of kind of physique athletes and bikini models and the like, who are probably some of the best looking people on the planet, but post show or post diet or post photo shoot or whatever it might be, if you ran their bloods and their liver enzymes, they were disastrous. And I think, you know, you've got to look beyond that in terms of health.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's
yes,
that phrase,
it's
isn't it? It's nothing good as, you don't look as good as skinny feels, or something that doesn't, I can't remember what it is. It's something.
Nothing
tastes as good as skinny feels. And you just think,
all
oh
about
God.
memes.
Yeah, yeah. But I just, but also concurrently, you've got magazines at the moment going the other way, putting larger ladies on the front cover.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm going to let you answer that one because I guess I'm pretty polarised on what I think on that.
Yeah,
what do you think on that, Nicola?
Well, I'm not going to go down that route. What I'm saying is you've got skinny, uber skinny and uber overweight and stuff, and actually you can sort of be, what I'm saying is, you know, I said to my daughter the other day, oh, weigh whatever on the scales. And I'm like, but it doesn't matter because I'm looking at you and I know you're not overweight.
Wow.
And people don't walk in, oh, she must be 10 stone or 12. You don't look at that. I look at people where they look healthy or unhealthy. That's genuinely what I do. And you can tell that from people's skin. And actually my one of the first modules of my course was, you know, you sit down, you look at people's skin and hair, and don't look at my grey hair, but you know, all of that sort of stuff.
Lockdown, do I don't think we're
you know what I mean? And it's nails and stuff, because that's where things start showing up. Nutrient deficiency starts showing up. You talking about thyroid health, you know, women, you know, the outer third of their eyebrows missing. That's an indication of thyroid issues. So, you know, there's so much you can sort of tell from that. So I say to people, it's not about what's on the scales. And actually, you see this again, you know, people constantly weighing themselves. Well, it's a stress.
I've got a, you know, again, I suppose I sound like I'm bagging on female athletes. I'm not. It just seems to be that, you know, no male athlete ever came in and said, look, I'm going to get you leaner and you're going to weigh a few kilos more, and they didn't care, unless of course they're in a weight class sport. But, you know, you say to your female athletes, like, you know, how do you want to look? And they don't say, I want to look like X, Y, and Z, or I want this to be better or that to be better. I think it's so often that people come with a very negative viewpoint, like, I hate this bit, I hate this bit, and I want to weigh this. I'm like, no, that's not what I asked you.
Yeah, that's weird.
You know, and I think there's such an association with looking better on weight, which obviously works, but one of the first things I show my female clients is actually a 10-week prep I did with a girl who then went on to do very, very well at the world's bikini modeling. And she did 10 weeks of prep. Her body can look more different between these before and after photos. She weighed the exact same to the pound after 10 weeks.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I think that's an important thing for people to realize, is actually composition, how your clothes fit you, how you feel about yourself, your energy, you know, your mood. These are much, much more important yardsticks than what the scale says.
What the scales say. And I agree.
That said, be a realist. You know, if you used to weigh 90 kilos and now you weigh 150, something's gone awry, you know. Absolutely,
but you can tell that just from the clothes.
Yeah.
If you can't fit in your clothes anymore, then you put weight on, and that's what I say to people. It's like, if you feel happy in your clothes, and I think that's more important. But
absolutely.
I mean, So, without this sounding like a job interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Look, pretty easy to answer in a lot of ways. I think it's kind of been quite an organic process where I do less and less client-facing stuff and more consultancy stuff.
Okay.
You know,
who are you consulting for then?
Well, I do a lot for riders at the moment.
Right.
I kind of found myself in a niche.
Yeah.
It's getting better, but I'd like to think, you know, I'm hoping to add to the quality of strength and conditioning work and nutrition among kind of pro riders and the like.
Yeah, yeah.
So polo.
Because you love your horses, don't you?
I love my horses.
So you'd love to work.
That's a very aggressive hobby, but
Ah.
you know, polo was a great jumping off point for that, and now I find myself branching out more and more. You know, dressage, eventing. I worked with some guys, some epic blokes who ride cow horses, which you've never even thought existed in the UK.
No.
They're going to compete at the Europeans. So increasingly riders, which, you know, it's kind of a twin love. You know, my passion for fitness and health,
Why
and
not?
then horses.
Yeah.
Why not? And then I work a lot in, you know, high-level corporate athletes. That one should have been in speech marks.
Yeah, okay.
Because I made it up.
High-level corporate athletes. Who would fall into that then?
You know, guys who run hedge funds or...
Okay, and then also like triathletes on the weekend or something.
No, quite the opposite.
Okay.
People actually looking to just boost their health for their day job.
Oh, interesting.
You know,
so that's what you call a corporate athlete?
Yes.
So they're training to do their job?
Yeah, because I think they're under so much stress that is unavoidable in their lifestyle.
Yeah.
That, you know,
to
the whole
avoid
kind of
burnout
conversation
type thing.
exactly, the whole conversation we've had of saying, you know, right, well, you know, avoid this, avoid that, and avoid this. For some people, that just isn't possible.
Can't do it. No, I know.
Yeah, it's more a case of
It's mitigating the stress at different times. Yeah.
Mitigation and management.
Yeah.
For one, avoiding burnout, but two, just, you know, and this is a whole other subject that we could waffle on about for ages, but the effect that all of this has on cognitive function.
Yes.
You know, and when your decisions cost millions and millions of dollars. Getting one wrong isn't one you want to do too often. So
I read this the other day, and I read so many things like you do. You know, everything, we go down rabbit holes with stuff. But actually, one was just about drinking water.
Oh yeah, huge.
And I can't remember the statistics, but it was if dehydration is the same as almost driving when you're drunk.
Yeah, I can.
In regards to your cognition. So and again back to blood sugar. Again, a lot of people have quite lows in the afternoon, and they just feel tired. They have massive, well, not necessarily even a big lunch, but the wrong lunch for them. Yeah. And they feel tired and sleep in the afternoon, and you know, could be making, like you said, major decisions. Yeah. Or living off coffee and not eating at all, and that can spike your blood sugar and have the lows as well. So
I think hydration. You know, one of the buy-ins for any of my programs is you've got to drink a minimum of 2.5 litres of water a day, not tea, not coffee, not Bud Light.
In addition to, you know. Are you all right with black tea and coffee?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, I would be lost without coffee. I've read the research on both sides of the coin, and I mean, there's hold my hand up.
Pro and con for everything, isn't there? Really, you can. Yeah, and I know you love your coffee.
But that's kind of one of those prime examples where I'll be stressed and I'll be tired, and the last thing I should be drinking is coffee, and I'll be mainlining it. You're like,
I know.
But it's full of antioxidants,
we'll
and if you have it with, you know, watch tyrosine, it's gonna, you know, not be as bad, and maybe you should have some alpha G. Full of nonsense. Stop drinking coffee.
Those drinks, you know, the
Monsters.
Oh God, the monster drinks.
Yeah.
Because you see all the kids
it's so big in the fitness industry as well. You know,
it's so frustrating because it's the food and drink industry are just lock on to the sort of a healthy nutrient. Yeah, it's taurine, isn't it? Which I think is in
taurine's in those. Yeah. But people don't know what that does, right?
No, of course they don't. They just see Monster, and you know it's.
So taurine is designed to knock down the effects of the caffeine, so that you don't have ringing ears and blurred vision, because it's hard to sell them to you if you do. Yeah. Or not.
Well, you have to be 18 to buy them as well.
Do you?
Yeah. Because I'm not sure about what's the other caffeine one? Red Bull. Yeah. I think you have to be 18 now. Maybe it's 16, but either way, it's I think that just says it all. Yeah. It wasn't from the beginning, but I think it is now.
Look, that's the whole health misnomer thing. You know, things like Mars bars not. You know, Mars is now doing protein shakes, and you know this and that.
Oh, sorry, and this is my classic from blood sugar. Yeah. So Snickers, you're not you if you're hungry. Yeah. Because you've got low blood sugar and you're hangry.
Yeah. Liz Hurley and Elton John, what were you doing?
Bar.
Promoting this.
Yeah. So it's just like, oh my God. So I mean, that's the problem. you can't really rail against the food industry.
Look, you can rail.
But, you know,
I kind of put it on my
try.
clients as to have a responsibility to get educated. You know, if things sound and taste too good to be true, it's probably because they
is.
are.
But you know, if it's on prime time advertising,
Sure, but you know, you can have a hard and fast rule, which I do with my clients. If it's more than 5% sugar, don't drink it or eat it.
Yeah.
Turn any single one of those things over that we just talked about. Look
Read
at
the
sugar
label.
content.
Read the labels. So
You know,
important. Yeah.
36 grams of sugar per 100 ml. Put it back down.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, in fact, any overly highly processed something that's in a can.
Yeah.
You know, just cook anyway.
And look, just quickly on sucralose in terms of sweetened drinks, they use that in PET scans to make cancers light up. You know, Google it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
So okay.
So I'm going to say, what are your top 3 tips for people if they weren't going to come see you or come and see me?
Yeah.
Just sort of easy things to put into their daily life.
Okay. So top 3, I'm going to go in kind of 3 categories. So the first one, nutrition-wise, 2.5 liters of water. We've mentioned that already.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't hop around or grow in the ground, don't eat it. Okay. Training-wise, do not be afraid of strength training. Cardio is great and there's a place for it, but strength training is your friend. And if you look at any of the all-cause mortality studies, it's going to be the one that makes you live longer.
Yep.
So get on it. And the third one is have a level of self-awareness, particularly of the smallest wheel in the cog that's constantly whirring in the back of your mind, because that's the one doing the damage. Not always the huge kind of, oh my God moments. Okay,
Yeah.
those ones, yes, they're stressful, but your body is pretty good at getting over those.
Yeah.
It's not very good at dealing with the constant white noise that's going on in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
And unless you're aware of it, it's very, very hard to take action and try and figure out what it is. And I find a lot of people just don't even consider it as something that impacts on their health, and it does hugely.
Hugely, yeah. And my one would be basically just add variety into what you're eating, because I think a lot of us get stuck eating the same
Variety in what
foods.
sense, though?
Colour.
Yes,
Colour
okay.
for your fruit and vegetables. You know, a lot of people, I have salad every day and they'll have, you know, just lettuce and cucumber or something. And I'm like, add loads of stuff in and just basically, so from a gut health point of view, it's your gut bacteria feed off different fibres.
Yeah.
So it's just great. And the way to do that is not to suddenly like bombard yourself with everything. Just think, when I next go shopping, buy one more new food.
Yeah.
Try it. You know, it's just quite a good way of doing it. And
Sure.
just try it. And if you don't like it, try something else. Just to up variety, because I think we all get a bit stuck in a rut of what we're eating. Just in general for planning, and you've got kids and you're busy, fine. But just all of us, I don't know about you, you've got millions of recipe books. Just take one down, choose one recipe, cook that week, or you know, just do something.
I find that's a
different.
recommendation that my clients really enjoy of yours that you've made as well, because I think, you know, so many foods that they didn't even realise that they loved that they now have on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And really get on with, you know.
Great, good. Well, it's a very good positive end to
Yeah.
end on.
Thanks,
Thank you
Nicola.
very much.
Right, thank you.